Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar, Inbound Interaction Management, powered by Unified Service Desk and Microsoft Dynamics CRM. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded. If you'd like to ask a question during the presentation, please use the chat feature located in the lower left corner of your screen. Today's presenters are Jim McPherson and Jason Griffith from Aspect Software. Aspect is a Gold Competency Dynamics CRM partner with Microsoft. Jim is the Senior Director of CRM and Digital Solutions. Jason is the National Practice Director for Aspect's CRM team. You now have the floor, Jim.
Hey, thank you very much, and appreciate everybody joining us today. Looks like we have a pretty good crowd. We're going to dive right in here and probably move pretty quick through this presentation. Before we get too far in, we just want to level set a little bit about why Aspect is even talking about this today and why we're presenting on this topic. And if you're not too familiar with Aspect, if you kind of step back and look at what we're all about as a company, it's about creating, managing, and maximizing customer relationships. And we do that through a whole bunch of different strategies and technologies, and we deal with that across every channel that the customer relationship has to exist in. So whether it's our contact center software or our professional services teams, it's really all about the customer experience for us, and that is really the centerpiece of all the things that we do. With regard to CRM specifically and Dynamic CRM, we've been working with this product since its inception, and we cover just about every element of CRM for business or technology purposes, everything from road mapping and planning to the social elements of it to customer interaction, integration. And the part we're going to talk about today is really the Unified Agent Desktop, or in this case, Unified Service Desk. So that's just a little bit of level setting about where we're coming from and the perspective that we bring. Today's webinar is really all about Unified Service Desk. Most of the time when we're talking about customer experience, we're talking directly about the things we do for the customer. And today we're going to talk indirectly about it, and we're going to talk about the things we do for agents and how that affects the overall customer experience. So today's agenda is going to be straightforward and simple. We're going to level set a little bit further by talking about why agents even need a Unified Services Desk. We're going to talk about some of the market data that supports this argument. And then we're going to get into the CRM and omni-channel infrastructure and a specific demo and overview of Microsoft's Unified Service Desk. Before we get too much further, we just want to ask the audience to kind of give us a little bit of feedback on who you guys are today. And as it pertains to this, we want to know how many different apps your contact center or customer service agents have on their desktop and use to support the customer interactions. So if you just kind of quickly fill in the radio button there, we'll look at kind of what the results look like. Okay, it's looking like it's fairly evenly spread. I guess we could go ahead and skip to the results here a little bit. Looks like roughly, well, the majority of people are in the 4 to 6 range. So that's indicative of what the market research is telling us as well. And there are even some people who have more than 4 to 6 applications that they have to use to support their customer interactions. So let's dive in and look at some of the related market data. Why do we need a Unified Service Desk? And there are a handful of challenges involved in creating good customer experiences today. Every organization has tried to move quickly to adapt to the pressure of mobile and social and the consumerization of those things that are changing how customers work with us. That's nothing new. Everybody's heard that, and everybody by and large has taken efforts to adjust and give the customer the channel and the means and the mode that they want to interact with an organization. What that really does to the agent is the thing that's being overlooked and I think oftentimes forgotten. The complexity or the burden that puts on the agent or the customer service rep is the part that's lagging, and there are definite effects that has on the customer experience. So for example, the vast majority of the organizations we deal with, and here it says 43% according to Forrester, but the majority of the organizations we deal with, they don't have all the applications they need to even handle the interactions and inquiries across multiple channels. So as a consumer, that results in extended service times for me. It makes me unhappy. Another key is that they don't have access to the data. So in addition to not having access to the applications, they don't have access to the customer data they need in order to look at past interactions or product history or things like that. So not only is it frustrating from the standpoint of not having the applications, but now as a consumer, I don't think that you know who I am. I don't think you know who I am and what I've done with your organization, and that frustrates me. Another factor here, as it pertains to a solution like Unified Service Desk, is the amount of time that agents actually spend looking for data to solve a customer problem or a customer inquiry. And what that results in is extended wait times. So now, not only am I frustrated that you don't know who I am, but you're making me wait longer and longer to solve my problem. And at the end of the day, I end up with a dissatisfied customer. And one of the biggest reasons, and this is what the poll in the beginning spoke to, is that the average customer service rep is dealing with about 10 different applications that they have to access just to answer a customer's question. So you have a whole mix of things here that are leading to a poor or less than optimal customer experience. And everybody knows what that can correlate to, but here are some specific statistics for you. So when you look at the numbers, reality is everyone's trying to differentiate through service. Every organization today is trying to make sure the service experience of their customer is as good as it can be. And the reason for that is simple. People are going to try a new company, a new brand, a new product, a new service if they don't get the customer experience that they want. So it's pivotal stuff. At the end of the day, it's not rocket science to understand what customers want. They want you to know who they are. They want you to talk to them where they're at. They want you to resolve their issues, and they want it done quickly. And those things can lead to a much happier customer, obviously. And USD is really promising all of that. You can look at data and statistics from Forrester and Gartner and others, and you can see that people are going to commit to a brand or a product because they have a friendly experience with a customer service rep. Even in your own experience, I'm sure there's always challenges, but when you deal with a customer service rep who takes care of you, it mitigates so much of the frustration. So 73% of the customers are going to stick with the company because of that kind of experience. And behind that, we can correlate that back to the agent. A happier, a more productive customer service rep is going to be a key. And that's what's going to solidify those customer relationships. And through Unified Service Desk, we can facilitate that. You can deliver a more seamless customer experience. You can make your agents more knowledgeable, more informed, and you can ultimately make the customer happy in a faster, shorter amount of time. And that's really what today's whole presentation is about. So from here, we're going to get into a little bit more of the meat and potatoes of what the solution concept is and what elements are in place. And then we're going to get into a deeper dive in terms of what Unified Service Desk is and a demonstration of how the functionality works. Jason, I'm going to hand it over to you here and let you run with it.
Thanks, Jim. So we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into looking at USD features and functionality and get to a software demonstration of the application. What customers are asking us today is, as we work with them around providing those customer and agent experiences, is how do you deliver that remarkable experience? And a lot of times it's around unlocking the power that you have today, and it's providing agents with a profile of that customer and the data that you've collected today, but it's giving it to them in a fashion that drives the experience during the interaction. You need a single integrated view of your customers, that profile, the metrics. What have they bought? What is the path they took to get to you? Were they on the website? Were they stopped at the shopping cart? What are the tools around to be able to support that? Once you do that, you can start delivering those unique experiences across multiple channels where it feels like the same approach, the same message that is being delivered. A lot of times, the ingredients around these experiences, and if you look on the left, is the customer experience. Organizations are investing a significant amount of dollars into social channels, into the IVR applications, to web chat, phone, SMS, all different ways that they can interact with that client to either solve a problem, to sell a product, or to just initiate conversations with that customer. However, back on the foundational level, the infrastructure needs to be able to support that. Agents need access to data. The call center needs to be able to route these communications and these interactions based on skill or based on the channel that's being added. Is your call center staffed? What kind of channels are you going to provide? And then at the agent level, do they have all of this coming into one desktop that can interact and provide the avenues to be able to solve that problem and quickly? Aspect has invested a number of resources to be able to define what that architecture should look like for organizations. And it really comes into two areas. It comes into how do you want to drive automated dialogues through the same interaction channel, through social or through SMS or chat. And then what does it take to have that agent dialogue? How can they go from I'm on the website and I'm looking to purchase something to I need to talk to an agent, and how do you drive that and capture that back in the system? And what we're going to show today is where CRM and where Unified Service Desk can play a significant role inside of that. So let's look at the USD. We'll go through a quick overview of the application, describe the layout, and then we're going to go ahead and focus on voice interactions of that channel and to show how that works. So most organizations today, when they look at what is the perfect flow of interactions into my call center, what would it look like? From the customer all the way through what the agent would see on their desktop. And when you start with the customer, you notice that they can have multiple interactions, whether it's email or voice or social or through the web, and they want to be able to get it to a queue so they can see who's available, who's best available to be able to answer that interaction, and then send it to the agent. Once the agent receives it, they need to be able to have that identification of who the customer is, recognition through a screen pop. But they may also need access into other supporting applications such as purchase history or order history or billing information. And how can all of that be driven through a single session to be able to access that and to create cases and have scripts at the agent level to help them drive and support and solve the problem going forward. So this is how Unified Service Desk with its key capabilities can support that. One is it's an integrated desktop. It's a single interface that can support all access to tasks, applications required to complete the interaction. It's support for multiple sessions. So if you allow agents to have an inbound call but then answer one or two chats or maybe have an email interaction as well, it's allowed to be able to drive unique sessions by screen pop, by script, so that agent can easily manipulate through the application to know where they're at and what they need to do as part of that problem-solving interaction. It's centrally managed inside CRM. This is not a completely custom develop, I have to repeat it every single time. All of the configurations, all of the application is managed specifically through Dynamic CRM, and we're going to spend a little bit towards the end walking through how we set up a Unified Service Desk and how it's deployed out to the agents. And then time to value. What it's done is, instead of custom building unique applications and repeat this process over and over, Microsoft has deployed this framework in product set really, but it's a framework for call centers where they can embed their call controls and their CTI capabilities or their chat capabilities or their other interaction channels into it, so agents don't have to mess with an agent, the agent application mess with CTI controls or to interact with another chat application or something else. It's all contained within that single application. So this is the overview of the layout within the system. I'm going to start up here at the top where this is the main toolbar. Up here, you can define applications that can be launched on demand by the agent. So if they want to log into their dashboard or their work or be able to search for data, all of those can be initiated by the agent. You can also initiate session tabs. So within a session, that is the interaction that's come into place, and whether it's a voice or a chat or an email interaction. So then it can actually execute all of the other sub-applications underneath it. So within there, we have our applications tab. And in this case, we're showing a screen pop of a customer down below. But then we also have access to multiple applications. Maybe as part of this, a knowledge base application will open up as another tab, or maybe a billing information or purchase information or inventory data. You can define as part of that session which applications are initiated, and you can even do that by the type of interaction within the system. Down below you have your application toolbar, which are subcomponents of that application tab. So here, as we're showing dynamics within the system, you can see that within this application tab for this session, I can actually, from the account, I can get access to the cases, I can get access to the associated contacts, and then it actually opens up over here in this left-handed panel. I have this left-handed panel for notes or for activities. So again, I'm not bouncing all over to interact with an application. It's all controlled in terms of how the agent can navigate within the system. At the top, I can provide call scripts. Now these are just not scripts where you just read along and follow through prompts. These are live touch applications. So if I'm in this agent script, I identify the contact and I can check it as done. Or I can create a new service request where I can open up a new case within the system and open up another application within it. So it's a way to provide context to the agent, but it also lets them initiate actions inside the CRM without having to know how to drive that process within CRM. And then up here at the top, as part of that session overview, you can provide high-level information about the company or the person or whoever's calling in that can be displayed. And all of this data is pulled from the dynamic CRM record. You have KPI controls that can be provided in the session timer. So in reality, what you can do is you would have the talk time or the interaction time that you've had that's stored inside of your call center infrastructure. You can have the wrap time stored. Then you can also have part of the session timer that says, how long did it actually take that agent to complete all of the tasks once the call's been dispositioned or wrapped going forward inside the process. So with that, we're going to go ahead and do a demonstration. And this demonstration is going to take two pieces. One is we're going to show an inbound call and show screen pop in applications and how the agent can actually solve the problem through the interaction. And then we're going to go ahead and walk through an administration overview of how we built and provided for those components inside the system. The screen to refresh for everyone. So what we're looking at here is Unified Service Desk. Unified Service Desk is as we had just gone through, no interactions are coming in. I have, as an agent, I can access my dashboard. I can access my knowledge base inside of SharePoint or any other application. We're showing SharePoint here within the system. Or I could even search for data inside CRM. Or I could launch other applications from my toolbar as I'm going through and working through my day, whether that's tasks or fulfilling of cases or anything else I need to do within the system. But once an interaction starts inside the system, and I'm going to initiate a phone call, and we're going to show what happens when the agent receives that call. So what's happening is this is going through the call center. It's going through the infrastructure. It's identifying, okay, who's available for this call. And at the point that the agent receives that interaction, we're going to see a few things jump up on my screen here inside the system. It's going to actually find the customer. It's going to open up and while we're waiting for that to come up, one thing to also show through is that we've implemented our CPI controls inside of the system here in the application. So I have the ability to do outbound calls, to put the call on hold, transfer, conference, in the call, as well as disposition, all pulled from our call center infrastructure. So there comes in my call now. Just took a second to actually find me. So a couple of things that have happened as this new session has been initiated. It found the record inside CRM that matched my in-calling number, and then it launched a couple of different applications. I automatically created a phone call activity so I can keep notes up to date, and it also kept the knowledge base open because I had that as part of my initial session within the application. So as I'm in here and I'm talking to them, I know who they are, email address, the standard demographic information. I have access to my script, and this is all defined information. They're slugs, so it knows as part of the session who the company is. It knows who the agent is. In this case, I'm Joy because that's who I'm logged in as. And then it gives me a set of instructions, and based on the customer response, I can initiate one of these tasks below. I can also keep notes about the call and keep the information updated, and then I can look through their profile and understand who they are as a customer. I can understand that they're a platinum customer. I can understand what products and orders and purchases that they've done over time. I can see previous cases, and then I can also see what they've called or what other interactions in the previous that they've had with us over time inside the system. I can have their demographic information all laid out for me. So I can go through and I can update this information. So as I'm talking to them, I can create a case record automatically. And by clicking on the Create Case, this is the step that I'm going to do based on the use case, is I can start to fill out the case information and try to identify how I can solve their problem. Or maybe it's just a quick question and answer and I don't necessarily need to create a case. This is kind of the options that you can manage and support as you're looking to measure your call center KPIs or understand why people are calling you within the system. So I can create my case, I can fill out the information, I can see maybe previous cases that this customer has asked about as I create that case. And then once that's done, I can save and close it. I can create my notes and type in provided the answer. As long as I keep my notes, at the end when I'm done, I can actually click Update Notes, and this will automatically update my notes inside of the phone call activity for me inside the system. As you noticed up here within my CTI controls, I can actually put the call on hold as I'm talking to the client. So if I have to ask a question or I don't have to go to my CTI toolbar as part of my call center, I can just put the call on hold and hold it. I can transfer or conference it if I needed to bring someone else in, all from within the application. And then when I'm done, I can end the call. So once we've disconnected and I've finished, I can actually continue to update my case information, or I can go in and disposition the case. Part of Aspect's call center products in this case is my status is still being shown as wrap inside the system because I haven't dispositioned this case yet. So I can update my information, I can wrap up the information, and then I can disposition it. And we are pulling these from our call center dynamically. So it doesn't have to measure or manage two different sources. Everything is controlled within the system. And I can define what this call was about inside the system. My notes have been updated, and once I'm finished, I can just go ahead and close out of my entire session and be ready for my next call. And it'll take me right back to where I was as part of that session inside the system. So let's go ahead and take a look at how did we build and how did we support all of these different call scripts, and how did we plug in our call control elements, and how do we define and build a session inside of CRM. So as part of that, all of that is controlled, and you may not all be familiar with Dynamics, but Dynamics CRM is a web-based application, and all of the configurations are actually stored for this inside of the configuration component. So when USD is installed, it actually builds out all of the entity structure to be able to support all of those configurations within the application. So we'll go through here and we'll look at the actions to start. So these are our action calls that can be configured and implemented inside of Unified Service Desk. So I can define actions for reminders, or I can define actions for go to account session or back to a contact session. As the administrators of the system, I can build all of the rules about how an interaction or how a session or what applications will get built into the system. So as I'm looking at these, I can look at all my action calls, and I can see which ones we've been working on in the past. So for instance, when I added that Aspect knowledge base that I wanted to launch as a manual action from the toolbar, I just give it a name. I add a hosted control inside the system. I put in what our URL is for those KBs, and then I can pass URLs and so on through the system. So that's one example of something that you can add to more toolbar capabilities inside of the system. So if I wanted to go back and then look at agent scripts, so how do I add more agent scripts and how do I enable and access those? So here are all of the different agent scripts that you can add to the system. And the one that we used today was welcome to the account custom session. So as you define which screens, which records, and how you want to manage the screen pop, you can define which session gets, or agent script gets executed. So in our case, we added, here's our agent script. It provided the name, the username, all that's stored inside CRM. And then you can create the order and define what each of those steps and those answers do as part of it. So they can either be toggles, such as just yes that I did this, or they could launch applications inside of CRM or even custom applications that are part of that session within the system. The other one that we want to show as part of this are the hosted controls. The hosted controls is how we define the CTI integration layer inside of the system. So here we can create and add which features or what functionality of our CTR toolbar that needs to be implemented. So we build out where's the DLL, we build out what are the rules, and then we can identify how we want that call to happen as we go forward. So once we add our hosted control, we can then go and define what needs to happen as part of that navigation or part of those scripts inside the system. So if I look at our Windows navigation, we'll be able to define how we want the screen pop to occur in the system. That's under session lines. So here's where I define all of my session lines, and I can create what needs to happen based on the interaction type. And then how do I want to do my searches inside the system. So for instance, we showed when a single number matches within the application. Well, what are the rules around what if duplicates are found? What do I want to happen? What happens if no match is found? What is the rule that needs to be in play within that system? So we can create those rules, and then you can define what are the results. So on a single match, we're going to pop up a contact or an account record or a case with that information populated. If it's duplicate matches, maybe we pop up the locate button. We show which records that match that information that came into the system. If there's no match, we'll pop up a new lead screen within the form to be able to drive and initiate that process. So it's about providing that identification and that recognition and automated actions to be able to drive that experience in the system. But again, it's not through a lot of different code and development and add pieces to it. It's about going into CRM and driving what the rules are and implementing those rules that drive your specific processes in the system. So that was the demonstration that we wanted to provide around Unified Service Desk. A couple of things around that is, total customer care. A lot of the things that we do is, as a call center organization, is we provide the tools and the technologies for speech, recording, voice, SMS capabilities, the contact center routing. But the core piece of it, and I hope that we are able to show today, is really around how does Dynamics and how does Unified Service Desk really promote and provide for that unique agent experience to be able to drive problems, to be able to solve issues, to be able to quickly and efficiently work through the business process and the business workflow. So we've separated CRM to be able to show that as, it's really around the interaction history, no matter which way a customer interacted with you. It's about having access to that customer data from a marketing or a services, like I showed the previous case history or previous purchase history, so I know who they are and I can relate to them on a more personal level. And then we really showed it through the automation from the business process and workflow of the application to drive from when a case is started to when a case is finished, and through the scripts to be able to initiate task and to initiate process, as well as provide it from a checkbox perspective. And at the end of the day, how do you tackle something like this from an implementation perspective? And I won't be so
forward to say it's all about requirements, but it's really around looking at what's the context review of what we are trying to solve as an organization. How are you going to handle inbound and outbound interactions, and what's that strategy around that? How do you want to take care of the customer, and how do you profile the customer? Or do you have different segmentations? What are the applications that the agent needs to be able to help solve all of the different types of questions? What are the customer experience objectives? And then look at it also from an agent experience in that perspective. And then what is that care plan and roadmap, and how can we fulfill that from an implementation to be able to address those? So with that, go ahead and open it up to any questions through the system, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Jason. And I do want to remind those of you, if you do have a question to ask, feel free to pop that into the Q&A manager down there in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. So far, I did get a couple questions come in asking if the recording will be available. And yes, this meeting is recorded. It should be available sometime next week. So keep a lookout for a follow-up email containing the link for that. Other than that, I don't see any pertinent questions coming through. Again, feel free afterwards to follow up with Jason or Jim regarding any questions that you do have. With that being said, I want to thank Jim and Jason for presenting today, and thank you all for spending your time with us today.